everybody, and welcome to Digital Catapult. What we're trying to do is create the ecosystem of organisations focused on addressing digital supply chain issues and needs. The idea of the testbed was to build test environments which have got data across multiple tiers of a supply chain.
Working with the Digital Catapult, we were able to tweak our solution by working very closely with a UK company for a UK use case.
We've really enjoyed working with the Digital Catapult team because you're working with like-minded people that are trying to fix similar problems.
The benefits of being involved with the Dish ecosystem is that it gives us access to businesses that will eventually be users of a full solution.
It's been fantastic to be paired in a working group with Reverse Resources. It's been brilliant to be part of that, learn how the platform works, learn how it can be applied to our business.
The matching through Digital Catapult with some of the technology providers has been really a game changer for us. Having been paired through Digital Catapult and having had that funded, that's made things possible which simply wouldn't have been otherwise.
I've gotten a space to actually speak about my work, hear about what other people are doing, and see how they can work together.
Digital Catapult are an outstanding partner to work with. There's a tremendous amount of intellectual rigour. They certainly keep us honest and keep us working hard.
Hi everybody, and welcome to the Digital Supply Chain Hub Launch and Connect event. My name is Tim Lawrence and I'm Director of Digital Supply Chain at the Digital Catapult. Today I'm going to sort of take you through the online event, and really excited to talk about the fabulous new platform that we are bringing to life today to you all, with some great discussions around not only the platform itself, but the content that we're building into the platform, and also some of the brilliant tools that we have that we're developing. Without further ado, let's run into what we plan to cover in the agenda today. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to give a bit of an overview of the Digital Supply Chain Hub program to date. We've been running for about 2.5 years. And I'm going to give a bit of an update on what we've achieved in that time, and what the program is all about for those that don't know it. And for those that do, just a bit of an update for you all. And then I'm going to hand over to Joe, who's going to really introduce the platform itself, and actually the heart of what the Digital Supply Chain Hub is going to be all about. So it's a real fabulous opportunity to get to learn and understand, and we really encourage you to sort of pick up on what it's doing, and also to sign up to it, yeah, which is going to be a theme running throughout the session today. And then we're going to move into 2 sessions talking a little bit more about some of the content that you'll find on the platform. Firstly, we're going to pick up on risk and resilience through a report that's been developed and presented by The Manufacturer. I think many of you all know The Manufacturer magazine and the events that they run as well. So we're really excited about the report that they've written, and Joe's going to take us through that. And then we're going to introduce you to one of the tools also in that same space on supply chain resilience. It's called the Supply Chain Resilience Navigator. It's been developed by Warwick Manufacturing Group, with some of our support, and Luke's going to take us through that. And then there's going to be 20 minutes or so for Q&A, and an opportunity to run through any questions you have. And please, as we go through, post your questions in the chat, yeah, so that we can capture those, but there'll also be an opportunity to raise them live during that Q&A session. And then finally, I'm going to wrap up with how to get involved going forward with the Hub program itself, but more importantly with the platform and how we move that forward. So thanks again for joining. I'm now going to sort of move into a little bit of an introduction in terms of where we are with the Hub itself. So the Digital Supply Chain Hub has really been set up, as I said, 2.5 years ago, to focus on addressing the supply chain agendas for business. And those agenda items really have not only become significant, but almost become more urgent as we've seen the world become somewhat more risky and challenging. Yeah, and you can just see some examples on the left-hand side of this side of the sorts of things that are happening in global supply chains. Supply chain disruptions pushing nearly 70% of UK firms to look at sourcing more locally. Obviously, we're all aware of the Red Sea attacks and lots of new legislation coming into supply chains. So looking at the ability to your supply chain, you're going to have to comply more and more with the sourcing of where materials come from, and more, the scope 3 emissions that come from your supply chain. So these things are driving the need for digital. And not only that, through the last government now into the present government, we see supply chains as a key, and the resilience of those supply chains is a key government topic as well. And I'm sure we'll see more of that as the new government gets into place and is moving that agenda forward. So what is the Digital Supply Chain Hub really all about, and what are we trying to do? So this sort of summarizes on one page the Digital Supply Chain Hub. So our overall vision is to transform manufacturing through digitally empowered supply chains that are more efficient, resilient, and sustainable. We're doing that by building an ecosystem of organizations working together to address the critical challenges we see in supply chains, and some of those that I referenced on the earlier slide. And so the platform itself is going to be a really, really important part of building that ecosystem and ensuring that ecosystem of working together to develop innovation and build that is effective and gets to all parts of the supply chain organizations that we have within the UK. What are we trying to really focus on? Well, we're really addressing three things, really. One is improving the flow of information through digital technologies so that material and money is not wasted, and delivering increased value to business and consumers and the environment. We have a number of things we're trying to drive through this phase of the program. Some of those are around getting people involved and organizations involved, building new digital technologies, upskilling people, and obviously getting investment from industry to support the investment we're getting from government. But equally importantly, we have some longer term goals about improving supply chain resilience for the UK, reducing CO2 and waste, and increasing efficiency. And how are we going about doing that? Well, we're doing that through three key things. One is building digital innovations. Two is deploying those in supply chain test beds. And three is enabling the adoption of those in industry. And the launch of the platform today is a key element of that approach to adopting the whole digital supply chain technologies in industry aspect. Firstly, on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see the issues that we are looking to address, and those issues have been very much shaped by the industry organizations that we're working with, whether that be improving end-to-end supply chain visibility, better balancing supply and demand, or looking at how logistics can be done more efficiently. You've highlighted, as industry participants, the sort of priorities we've been focused on. We've then been building an ecosystem of organizations, and we have some 250 organizations involved to date. Industry, tech startups, universities, technology companies, and industry bodies, all focused on helping optimize this end-to-end supply chain. So what then we're building is this digital supply chain platform, which we'll go through in detail today. And then in that platform, you'll be able to access all of the things that we've been doing on the hub to date. That's been running our flagship projects, and you can find out more details about those and what they're doing. All of the open calls that we've been running and the outcomes and outputs of those, as well as accessing our digital supply chain testbeds. So moving on, just to summarize then, what do we actually have developed so far? Well, we've developed over 30 different digital supply chain technology solutions, working between industry and tech innovators. So those solutions can be anything from how to better map your supply chain, how to manage order visibility more effectively, how to measure Scope 3 emissions, a wide range of solutions that are now becoming available for you to look at, use, access, and test. We've then built out a series of supply chain test beds focused on 4 key sectors: hydrogen, automotive spares, food, and circular textiles. And those are data environments where technology companies and academics can test some of their research, some of their innovative digital solutions in an open environment of multi-tiered environment, making data available for those organizations to really see the impact and the benefits that digital can bring to supply chains. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we are launching our Digital Supply Chain Hub platform today. And that's a key element of our adoption by industry, and also the connection between industry and our innovation community that we're working with. So move on, please. So the hub is all about a community of organizations, a portfolio of critical innovation projects, a platform for continuous collaboration, and we'll go into that in more detail, and then this network of test beds and living labs right across the UK, which I'll show geographically in a short while. So in terms of impact, let's move on to the next slide. You can see the numbers on the left-hand side of this chart give a bit of an overview of what we've achieved so far in terms of engagement and involvement. But what's most important is actually examples of the sorts of solutions we've developed. For example, with a company called Versed AI, working with BAE Systems and General Motors, we've developed out a multi-tier supply chain visibility mapping tool using AI and natural language processing, which can map companies very, very quickly across tiers 1, 2, and 3. We, working with Kavita and Dire Engineering, have developed an AI assistant for risk and order management. And then finally, we've shown how we can reduce waste in food supply chains by 30% through better balancing of supply and demand across the end-to-end supply chain, connecting the retailer right back to the farm, and showing that there's massive opportunities to reduce waste across supply chains if connectivity is enabled, sharing is enabled, and data visibility is provided. So there's loads more examples of really the great impact we've been having in the platform, and I'd encourage you to sign up and go and look at those and find out what's going on. So move on to the next slide. Here's a good example from one of the companies that we've been working with, Dire Engineering.
My name's Richard Lauder. I'm the Business Improvement Director for Dire Engineering. Who's Dire Engineering? Well, we're a specialist in machine metal fabrications based in the northeast of England, across a couple of sites. We employ 180 people, have been going for 48, 49 years, and our turnover figures are 17 million. The technology partner that we've been paired with brings automation to our procurement function, mainly around documentation and post-purchase management, so expediting and getting parts in. But its real power is in the AI that sits over the data set and allows natural questions to be asked. You know, when is this part due in? And anyone can ask the system that. It doesn't have to go through a procurement manager or someone who knows the ERP system. The impact of the partnership is still in its early stages. We're still in the pilot that completes the end of March. The overarching ones is going to be a reduction in cost. It's going to be an increase in our OTIF delivery performance, an increase in our working capital because we won't have delays. And there's also the softer issues around people just enjoying their jobs a bit more because they're not having to do boring activities.
I think there's no better way to describe the sorts of value that organizations are getting from being part of the digital supply chain hub and the ecosystem we're building than coming from an SME up in the Northeast, yeah, about the value they've got from this. So finally, as I mentioned, the program is totally regional now. If we move on to the next slide, we've got activities happening right across the UK, and there's a great opportunity to get involved, whether that be in your region or centrally as well through the platform itself. But you can see, we're running future supply chain labs across all locations. And please do, if you want to get involved in any of that activity, let us know, and we can link you into the relevant things that are happening regionally. So finally, now really excited to be launching our online platform to support industry adoption of digital technologies. Joe's going to take us through exactly what the platform is all about now, and provide the details on all the great content, assets and aspects that we've built in the hub, that are becoming available to everybody today. So I'm going to hand over to Joe.
Brilliant. Cheers, Tim. Thank you very much to everyone for coming today. Tim's just walked you through the programme and a number of the initiatives that the programme's launched across the UK. I've been asked to come here and introduce today, and I'm excited to launch something that myself and my colleagues have been working for a long time now, that really works towards fulfilling Digital Catapult's core mission of accelerating the adoption of advanced technologies. But if we somewhat take a step back and consider the current state of supply chains at the moment, I imagine most of us on the call, because there's a reason we're here, recognise that supply chains are the backbone of most economies, enabling the flow of goods, services across the globe, but they're tangled, they're inefficient, and they're very often filled with challenges, whether it be siloed operations, fragmented communications, skill shortages, increasing demand, sustainability. The obstacles are large and complex, and ultimately the state of the supply chains in most markets is there's a lack of visibility, there's some limited relationships, there's a lack of trust and alignment and incentives, and really they're quite opaque, complex and efficient across supply chains. But Digital Catapult's looked at this challenge as an opportunity, and so as I mentioned earlier, our vision is simple. It's all about leveraging technical solutions to create a seamless, interconnected supply chain ecosystem. One's resilient, sustainable, and ready to face the future. And we want to create a situation where manufacturers, suppliers, solution providers can all work together effortlessly, sharing knowledge and resources to overcome those challenges and achieve the common goals. And today we're hoping we're making a significant step towards making that vision a reality. And so for the past 18 months, we've been conducting considerable research with industry leaders and stakeholders to identify the real world challenges and design the best solutions for those. By collaborating closely with businesses across various sectors, we ensure that the solutions we've built address the specific needs and pain points of the supply chain community. And it's been designed to bring together the best minds, the latest technology and the most innovative solutions, and all in one place. And so in order to do so, we've developed 4 different solutions that are all based on the research of what we've been doing. So product number 1, or solution number 1, is a bespoke educational platform. In partnership with Warwick University, we're developing educational courses designed to address critical skill shortages and give you a structured learning experience to guide you through the skills and knowledge needed to digitize your own supply chains. The modules cover a range of topics, from mastering the fundamentals of supply chains and how technologies can transform those supply chains, to learning more about how crucial the people in your organization are when it comes to adopting new technologies. The modules will ensure that your team really has the knowledge and the skills to thrive and begin to look at the digitization of your own journey. Solution number 2 is a digital toolbox. So as part of the DISH program, we've been developing a number of digital tools that are all built to help you understand your own supply chains and enhance your own operations. Tools like the Edge Digital Readiness tool that gives you a breakdown of your own supply chain readiness and highlights key areas, importantly, for you to take that next step in your supply chain journey. or the Supply Chain Resilience Navigator that's being developed by WMG that Dr. Luke Bellamy will be walking you through a bit later on. These tools are all built and developed to provide you with actionable insights that help you to optimize. Product number 3 is our circles. So circles are a place we've developed to connect, network, and collaborate with other supply chain leaders, other innovators, experts, and tech solution providers. We've given you a place to engage in meaningful discussions on logistics, optimization, sustainability, risk management. The opportunities are endless. Circles are intended to foster a collaborative environment where you can share insights, ask questions, and find solutions together with your peers. It's about building a supportive community that strengthens the entire supply chain ecosystem. Do you want to grow your network or meet and connect with potential partners? Or do you want to observe others' innovations and establish yourself as a leader? We've built circles with the intention of letting you do exactly that. And last but not least, product number 4, our showcase event and the video that you just watched, the first one, you heard William McColgan, the director of McColgan's Quality Foods, say that matching through Digital Catapult with some of the technology providers has been a game changer and has made things possible that wouldn't have been otherwise before. We decided to take that to the next level by developing a matching platform. So the platform will match individual profiles of the users with curated articles and content. But more powerfully, it'll also recommend other people and organizations that you should connect with based on the individual aspects of your own profile, helping you to find the right people and the right content to help you with your specific challenges. The power is that as the platform grows, the matching grows with it. The more content and the more people, the more organizations that join, the better you find the recommendations on our platform become. Now, as Tim mentioned, this is a platform. So now that I've walked you through all 4 products that we developed based on the research we've been doing for the last 18 months, I get to reveal in somewhat grandiose Steve Jobs styles that actually they aren't 4 separate products. They're all features of the Dish platform that we've been developing. So the platform features all of these different products in one single space and one single product. And it's an innovative platform designed to facilitate strategic collaboration between manufacturers and digital solution providers. It's a one-stop shop for connecting, learning, innovating in the supply chain space, whether you're a huge manufacturer looking to optimize your own operations, or an SME seeking digital transformation, or a solution provider with innovative tools for the market. The platform was built with you, for you, with you in mind, and it's one that you can sign up to now and start using now. But in order to make sure we brought you the best possible platform, we partnered with industry leader in Common Objective. So Common Objective has a wealth of expertise in creating successful platforms in the for industry collaboration, their expertise and success in the textile industry, working with notable members like Vivienne Westwood and having organisations like Reformation and Stella McCartney represented on their platform makes them a perfect partner in this venture for us. Together, we're combining our strength to develop a platform that is both innovative and highly effective. Like I mentioned, they have a proven track record of creating platforms that drive industry collaboration and innovation. Their success is a testament to their own capabilities, and by joining forces with Common Objective, Digital Catapult hopes to bring you a platform that combines our own deep tech expertise with industry insights, ensuring that this platform is not only something that technologically is advanced and sound, but also highly relevant to the industry needs and the challenges that we know people are facing. It's already beginning to foster connections among a diverse range of the organisations that have touched the Digital Supply Chain Hub programme in some way. 2, to pull out, 1 you've already heard from William McColgan, but McColgan's is a third generation family business, and they're the largest independent producer of pastry on the island of Ireland. Or Hydrologic, which is a organisation that's helping to accelerate towards net zero by making it easier to adopt and deploy hydrogen-powered machinery. But really, those 2 organisations represent just a small fraction of the potential that the hub offers. As more businesses join, like I mentioned earlier, the network grows stronger, providing even more opportunities for collaboration and innovation. And so really what we're asking to do is that now that the hub and the platform is open to users from across the UK supply ecosystem, we invite you to join us today by either using the QR or using the slide, the URL on the screen. By registering, you gain access to a wealth of resources, whether it be the educational content, whether it be relevant articles that we're uploading, digital tools, or that vibrant community of your peers and industry leaders that we talked about. Ultimately, whether you're looking to enhance your skills, find the right partner, or explore new digital solutions, the platform is your gateway to helping you to digitize your supply chain. Brilliant. Tim, back to you.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Joe. I mean, it's really great to be launching this platform. It's got so much richness, I think, and it only grows richer with the more people that join it and can add their own insights, content, and knowledge. And that's something that we really want to encourage as we go through this. I'm now going to move into a little bit more detail around some aspects of what we've got on the platform. The first of those is a report that's been recently developed by the Manufacturer magazine. And I'm going to hand over to Joe Bush, the editor of the Manufacturer, to talk a little bit more about some of the things that you can find in that content, yeah? And some of the topics and the insights and ideas that come out of it. So, Joe, over to you.
Thank you, Tim. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining today's session. As Tim mentioned, we've been working with Digital Catapult on supply chain resilience, risk and resilience report. So my role today is I'm going to very briefly summarise some of the findings of that report, but the full report will be available after today's session. So I'd urge you to have a look at the full content. But before I do that, I'd just like to, for anyone out there who's not familiar with the Manufacturer, I'd just like to introduce ourselves and what we do. So if I could just move on to the opening slide, please, or the second slide. Thank you. So yes, my name is Joe Bush. I head up the editorial team at the Manufacturer. We produce a range of content around the industry. So we have our printed and digital magazine, our website, of course, but we also have 2 weekly digital briefings, a weekly podcast, YouTube channel. So we have a variety of different content streams. The magazine audience is around 15,000. Our digital briefing audience is around 13,000, and it's from across the sector, of which 40% is around C-suite and management job roles. So we're very integrated within the manufacturing space and with our finger on the pulse of the sector. In addition to our content, we also produce events, conferences and seminars throughout the years, and that includes Smart Manufacturing and Engineering Week, our TM Live series of shows, and of course our 2 awards programs. We have the Manufacturer Excellence Awards and the Manufacturer Top 100. So we do have a lot going on in the sector. Next slide, please. As you can see, today is about the supply chain risk and resilience report. First and foremost, thank you to Digital Catapult for all your support with the report and the creation of it. As I'm sure everyone is aware, supply chain is one of the main pain points for manufacturers at the moment, and it's become particularly accentuated over the last few years. The content from the report has been taken from a combination of our own research that's been shared with us by our partners, an insight that we've collated from manufacturers that we speak to on a daily basis, and there are some case examples that they're in the report and some of which I'll touch on today. So the report essentially looks at supply chain challenges and their impacts and risks associated. As I said, it's some industry case studies and recommendations for the future and best practice. So moving on to the next slide, please. Looking at the challenges associated with supply chains, I'm not going to touch on this for too long because I'm sure you're all aware of what those are. But sort of working our way from left to right, a good place to start with around supply chain disruption is of course COVID had a huge impact on global trade, particularly for goods coming from the Far East. Semiconductors would be a prime example. I think pre-COVID, supply chain resilience strategies were based very much around single point of failure. The issue with COVID is that it caused multiple fractures, making redundancy almost impossible, and the disruption unprecedented. And I don't think it comes as a great surprise that the report shows that only 2% of businesses were prepared for something like the pandemic that we saw in sort of 2020. Brexit, of course, although firms had time to prepare, it still caused huge disruption and certainly exposed outdated and legacy and paper-based systems. Although a drop in exports was expected due to teething problems, there were still issues long after the UK's exit from the EU, which sort of suggested ongoing protracted disruption. New processes and regulations added complexity, particularly for SMEs who don't necessarily have the resources. And of course, the cessation of freedom of movement created issues around access to skilled labour. We've seen disruption in the Red Sea due to the conflict in Gaza. We've seen trade rerouted to avoid the Red Sea and the Suez Canal, which equates to around 30% of global container trade. The detour around the Cape of Good Hope adds around 4,000 miles and a 30% increase in transit times. This has caused extended lead times, increased prices, and of course more fuel burned by the shipping industry. And it's even caused some European-based manufacturers to pause some of their operations. On top of that, we've seen instances like the Ever Given blockage in the Suez Canal and the collapse of the Francis Scott Bridge in Baltimore, which highlights that supply chain disruption can occur at any moment. There's also conflict ongoing in the Ukraine. With the report showing that there's hundreds of thousands of businesses worldwide rely on Russian and Ukrainian suppliers. It, for example, has had huge impact initially in the food sector. The Ukraine accounted for around 50% of the planet's sunflower seed oil, 18% of its barley, 16% of its global maize, and 12% of wheat production. So Ukraine was worthy of its moniker, which was the breadbasket of Europe. Hectares of crops sown dropped by nearly a quarter in 2022. Not only that, other commodities like nickel and neon also were impacted, and they had knock-on effects within the EV battery and microchip manufacturing industries, respectively. Overarching all of this, of course, is that manufacturers are on a journey towards net zero and to reduce emissions. So there are significant emissions associated with manufacturing supply chains. And tighter legislation and regulation is putting the sustainability agenda front and centre. Scope 3 emissions are, of course, closely associated with supply chain, and those are the tricky emissions, and they're often numerically higher than Scope 1 and 2. And then, of course, there is technology. All manufacturers recognise the need to embrace technology and to digitally transform, but the landscape can be confusing. There are myriad solutions and vendors out there. And there are lots of buzzwords and jargon. Not only that, but legacy environments, lack of IT/OT convergence, reluctance to trust technologies such as AI, and resistance to change at factory level are all presenting barriers to adoption. Next slide, please. That's not to say that manufacturers aren't thriving in the face of some of these challenges, and as mentioned, there are several use cases within the report. I'll summarise a few now, but obviously the full use cases can be found at length in the report. And I should say that all these use cases are previous winners of the Manufacturing Excellence Awards. First, I'd like to touch on is Unix Traffic. They're based down in Poole in Dorset, developer of intelligent traffic management systems. They had a huge impact, supply chain impact due to the disruption within the electronics supply chain. So they've had a huge focus on agility and sharpening of business processes to enable them to pivot and react and make decisions faster in the face of disruption. They've increased inventory to mitigate the component shortages that I mentioned, but they also have a wide product portfolio, so their sales, inventory, and operations planning process has been crucial in optimizing inventory and reducing overall end-to-end cycle time. They're also mitigating Brexit issues with their own export control and customs team that's very much integrated into any conversations around European logistics. And the company also has a future factories strategy and a 5-year roadmap around how digitalisation will transform their business. Moving on to case study number 2, please. Domino Printing Sciences, they are a developer of industrial and commercial printing products. Regulatory changes related to trade compliance and geopolitical tensions have created what they've described as a perfect storm for their supply chain. Therefore, they've focused heavily around developing a robust supply chain strategy based around ensuring resilience and business continuity. End-to-end supply chain visibility is being provided by the company's connected ERP system, which enables them to react quickly and efficiently in the event of a crisis. In terms of next steps, they're looking at cloud-based ERP, which will provide additional capabilities in global trade management and a direct connection to supplier systems, which will improve visibility still further. They're also looking to make additional investment in machine learning and artificial intelligence, which will further optimize decision making. In terms of tips from them, they stress to not implement technology for technology's sake and to think about the impact on the business. Behavioral change management is key to enhancing team engagement, and they stress that disparate systems are often a practical reality in manufacturing, so a system with the flexibility to integrate easily with others is a must. Moving on to case study number 3, please. Ricardo, another former award winner. They provide engineering solutions to aerospace and defense, automotive and engineering sectors, among others. The fact that they are a low volume manufacturer developing for specialized applications, their challenges have been particularly pronounced. So they've had a key focus on continuous improvement, enabled by digital tools to enhance supply chain resilience, such as on-site support to its suppliers. They've added a supply chain sustainability function to reduce carbon footprint and enhance efficiencies throughout the value stream. And real-time data has been really key, and advanced analytics and system integration tools have also been key to enable the company to monitor supply chain operations closely and respond proactively. There's been a real emphasis on transparency, adaptability and sustainability, which have enabled the company to mitigate some of the adverse impacts mentioned. Their top tips are, while tech is key, don't forget about relationships and human factors in your supply chain. And while using data as a tool for improvement is important, it's also important not to underplay the value of relationships. And then finally, our final case study is Druck, who are based up in Leicestershire. They're a manufacturer of pressure sensors, transducers, and test and collaboration instruments. They have experienced energy, materials, and labour cost increases over the last few years, and a very unpredictable order book as a consequence of COVID. The company has increased the urgency on deployment of automation as a consequence. They've driven the sustainability agenda to reduce power consumption, and they've increased their headcount on their technology team. They've mentioned that they are collecting ever more data, which is providing insight into root cause on yield issues, tightening process specifications, and visualizing real-time process performance. Their top tips are around understanding your roadblocks in your processes, to work to reduce waste and optimize flow with automation and data. As I say, the full case studies for these companies can be found in the report. Moving on to the next slide, please. In terms of recommendations and best practice, I think manufacturers are one thing that they're universally agreed on is that the only future certainty is uncertainty. So knowing your indicators of disruption is key in order to future-proof supply chains. Key is sort of 4 key factors here to look out for, and that's demand fluctuation, unstable suppliers, transport, and geopolitics. We're also seeing trends around reshoring. Economies of scale once made shifting manufacturing to the Far East, for example, are now being outweighed by increased labour costs, logistical and administrative headaches, and a lack of supply chain control. So shortening and reducing complexity in supply chains can really help organisations to future-proof. And the recent supply chain disruption has caused many manufacturers to rethink procurement and recognise the benefits of local supply. And the third one there is technology. obviously mentioned earlier as a challenge. Emerging technology like AI and machine learning are key to solving supply chain challenges, and there are a variety of tools, help and test beds available from the Digital Catapult Supply Chain Hub, which has been mentioned already, and we'll go into in further detail. So I urge you to take a look at that. Moving on to the penultimate slide, this is just a nod to the Digital Catapult Supply Chain Hub. It's a digital innovation ecosystem that empowers individuals and organizations to work together to improve visibility in manufacturing supply chains to make them smarter, accelerates digital innovation, making supply chains more efficient, resilient, and sustainable. So, as I say, I urge you all to get involved. And just as a sign off from me on my final slide, just like to say, thank you very much for attending today, and thank you very much for Digital Catapult's support in putting the report together. As I said, everyone will have access to it post today's event. But just a little nod to our events taking place in November. You can see some of them there, but a particular nod to the Manufacturing Leaders Summit and to the Manufacturing Excellence Awards, as I say, taking place in Liverpool in November. And happy to take any questions later, so I'll hand back to Tim. Thank you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, Joe. I think there's a couple of things that really sort of resonated for me in the report when you were going through that. One of them was actually the sort of range of organisations that are proactively addressing the resilience agenda, and actually in very practical ways. I'd encourage you to read the sort of case studies in a bit more detail, because these are sort of organisations ranging in size, but are showing how, by undertaking a number of key actions and things to address resilience, they're making a huge difference to their businesses and also the efficiencies that they're running. And I think the last point is that, the reshoring aspect was mentioned. And one of the things I thought I'd mention there is that another tool you can access through the Digital Supply Chain Hub is what's called our UK Supplier Directory. This is a directory of manufacturing suppliers, and the purpose of it is, if you have a supplier that you're looking to maybe move from offshore to onshore, can you find the right capabilities in the UK? And the purpose of that supplier directory is to help you find those capabilities. Not only just do the suppliers exist, but do they have the right technical capabilities? And so that's also something that we'll have in the platform as we launch it. And I'd encourage you to look at and have access to. Two things I wanted to mention from a point of view of admin before we move into the next discussion. First of those is, please post your questions that you have for any of the panelists as we've gone through. So whether that be my introduction, Joe's talk on resilience, or what Luke's going to talk about now, and any other topics that you're interested in terms of the hub, just put them in the chat and we'll collate them, and then we can use those as the basis for our discussion going forward. And you will have noticed also that we have a number of polls that are being run, and they'll pop up on screen as we go through the session. Please take the time to respond in an honest way to the polls, and then we can also talk a little bit about those perspectives as we get into the Q&A. Interesting enough, the first of the polls around who signed up or who hasn't signed up yet to the platform was an even 48 to 52, I think, yes to no. So great opportunity for the 52 to get signed up as we go through the rest of the session today. So I'm really excited to now move on to a tool that we've developed in conjunction with Warwick Manufacturing Group and Warwick University on supply chain resilience. And the reason why we were really interested in this is that one of the questions we were posed when we started off the Digital Supply Chain Hub program was improving supply chain resilience by 10%. And we said, yeah, that's great, but how do we measure supply chain resilience? How do we know what an improvement of 10% actually means, for a business or for an organization? So we asked Warwick to look at that and come up with an approach to be able to assess resilience. And I'm excited to introduce Dr. Luke Bellamy to talk through what they've come up with, yeah, and how it can be applied to your business's supply chain. So, Luke, over to you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Yes, supply chain resilience has been a very difficult thing to kind of get a grasp on and to measure. So I'll be taking you through that in a second and how this has contributed to our capability assessments. So within Warwick Manufacturing Group, I work within the supply chain research group, which is headed by Professor Alok Chowdhury, and I've been working closely with colleagues Hamid and some others as well that have moved on to other opportunities, but have been very largely involved in the development of this. So I've been the lead engineer responsible over the last year or so developing this tool, and I'm quite keen to take you through it now. So if we go to the next slide, please. So as Joe Bush from the manufacturer very well highlighted the challenges that supply chains do face, and mentioned a few, particularly the Suez Canal blockage and the wars that we're experiencing in Ukraine and Gaza, Brexit, and many others. There is an increasing need for resilience in supply chains. As consumers, we're expecting more from our supply chains. We're expecting organizations to have products more available, that delivery is faster, that we expect them to be more transparent about their operations. We expect them to be more sustainable. And as supply chains are getting ever more complex and technological advancements are increasing and changing the way supply chains operate, it is getting increasingly difficult for supply chains to become more resilient when juggling all of these elements. As it is the case now that supply chains are really the things that compete in the global marketplace, competitive advantage is all about your supply chain capabilities rather than your organizational ones. So in that mind, we are looking at a supply chain resilience assessment here, which considers that. So how do we support businesses to be more comprehensively resilient, which gets to the heart of what Tim was saying just earlier, because resilience is a very complex subject. It is multifaceted, it's subjective, it depends on the context, it's dynamic and it changes over time. And there are no easy empirical metrics that you can use to comprehensively assess resilience. So if we go to the next slide, please. So with that in mind, we had a look at academic and grey literature, so literature from industry. And from that, we redefined and developed the definition of resilience within a post-pandemic context. Sorry, if you go back just a second. And with that, we also developed this framework, which you'll be able to see in our report that details the elements of the framework and the contributing elements. This framework was developed to be a capability assessment. So as we led forward into the development of the Resilience Navigator, so next please, we are looking at an OEM-focused tool that is hosted on Value Chain's platform, and we plan to continue to develop this tool based on feedback and information received from companies that are participating. So next, please. So at each stage of the definition, the framework, and the validation of the toolkit as well, we've been working with a number of different organizations that have independently validated our work and have contributed to its improvement. And these are some of the organizations that we worked with at the latest stage, but there are many more that have worked with us at previous stages as well. So next slide, please. So what is the Resilience Navigator then? So primarily it's a digital platform that is quite dynamic. It enables you to go on as a manufacturing organization, you fill out all your information and you go through the assessment. The assessment is designed as a capability level. So in other words, asking you questions that are specifically about how good your organisation at doing certain things, and we have tiered that into 5 different categories. So I will show that to you in a minute. But in essence, the Resilience Navigator is a platform that provides detailed scores and a comprehensive report for insights. And you can see an example on the left-hand side of the platform itself, and a subsection of the report that shows you benchmarking organizational scores and recommendations. When you go onto the tool itself, you'll be able to download a report, a sample report prior to participating in it, so you can see the kinds of information that you'll get as a result of participating in this. So next slide, please. So the reports, this is on page 3, when you receive it, is largely gives you an idea of where your strengths and your weaknesses are based on the questions that you answer and how you answer them. And based on those scores, you get an overall score, and then you get a broken down score into the various subsections, and then recommendations are based on your poorer performing scores. Alongside that, there is also benchmarking with industry peers. So you'll be able to compare based on industry subsector. You'll be able to compare based on size of the organisation as well, both on employees and on annual turnover. The questions are designed as a streamlined self-assessment so that you can, in essence, get through it without too much reading, too much faff. It's there to really give you the information that you need to answer the question and made accessible. And one of the core components as well is this is a survey as well that you can distribute amongst your organisation, and that as single users, you can all contribute and answer the same questions, and then your score is amalgamated at the end. So multiple users can contribute to a single organisational score at the end. So if you go to the next stage, please. There we go. So here's a sample of the survey as we start out. So one of the first things you'll be asked to do once you've registered would be to select your company and user profile. On the left-hand side, you can see that there is a clear indication of your progress. So you'll be able to go through those, break them down, revisit any questions dynamically, update them, and that will update the report. And you will be able to also answer the questions and then come back to it later as well. Or once you've finished it, come back and revisit it. So it's got that dynamic improvement process that you can engage with. Next slide, please. So, as I said earlier, the answers are quite short. They're fairly descriptive of different capability levels. It's a fairly simple, plain interface, easy to engage with, and you can also feed back the relevance of each question as well, based on how you deem it to be important. Next, please. And then finally, when you have completed the assessment, you'll be able to click View Answers, go back and amend any questions if you wish, or download the latest resilience report as well. And you'll be greeted with both your own personal score based on the questions you've just answered, and then that also combined with your organisation. So you can see on here that this is based on 3 completed surveys, and the My Score, the average of organisational score, and the annual turnover, that they each have different overlays here, and you can select to compare with different elements as well. And all of these are presented collaboratively on the main report itself. And once you've completed, as specifically as well in the first week or 2, you may not find that there is much industry engagement. As we are launching the platform today, there isn't any data currently available on the platform. But as it gets populated, you'll be able to revisit it and see your revised organisational score based on your colleagues' contributions, and also updated industry benchmarking based on other industries also participating in this. And then each time you'll be able to download the PDF report and get a more up-to-date version, which may well update the recommendations and any other elements as well. So thank you for listening, and thank you for Digital Catapult for the opportunity as well to host this as well on their platform. And I'm really eager to see where this is going to go. So thank you very much. And if you want a QR code to access the Resilience Navigator, it'll be here, and I'm sure a link will be available in the chat as well. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant, Luke. Thanks very much. I mean, I think it's really great assets to have available, and I'd encourage everybody in the um, who is online today, and also to talk to your colleagues about this. I mean, it's one of those things where I think when you get down to the detail of it, there's so much practical recommendations that come out of the tool, and things that you can do to improve your supply chain resilience, as well as the score and the overall assessment. I think you know, you'll find it really, really useful as a means of just assessing where you are and what the sort of things are that you need to consider to improve that resilience aspect of your supply chains. So thanks to all of our speakers today. That was really great. We're now going to move into Q&A. And we've had a few questions that have come in, which is great. I'm going to start off with a question from Chris, who's asked around members and collaborators, and talks about, do you currently have any pooling stroke asset management organizations in your members and collaborators? So it's quite a specific question. I'm going to push it over to Joe because he's closer to what's happening on the platform. But Joe, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so on the platform itself, we have got two specific, what I would consider asset management companies. We've got one that helps with asset tracking using IoT and RFID, and then we've got an automated asset management inventory solution on the platform. So there's already two on there. I mean, the only thing I'd say is the platform's open to everyone and anyone that might have some interest or solution for digital supply chains. So the almost cop-out answer is, if we don't, and you know someone, recommend them to sign up to the platform. But at current, to answer the question, yes, we've got two organizations that directly deal with sort of the management of assets within supply chains.
Great. Okay, thanks, Joe. That's really good. I'm going to move on to a question around the resilience platform, just to bring in Luke on that. So the supply chain resilience is based on user-generated content. Do you see any problems with bias or commercial interest leading the scoring on this particular tool? I don't know, one of those questions, Luke, do you want to just pick that up?
Yeah, sure. So it's an interesting question. It is something we considered in part of the development, but ultimately the tool is for the organization's benefit, for them to accurately and honestly assess their supply chain resilience. As part of the sort of personal bias that an individual can have when it comes to perceiving their own capabilities and the capabilities of the organization, are designed to be met with the multi-user system that we'd set up, so that ideally those organizations employees would separately go through the survey, and there wouldn't be any cross collaboration. Of course, we're not going to police that, but you know, that's the element of what's planned for that, and the score would therefore be averaged. So that should in part mitigate that issue. But if an organisation wants to cheat the system, I mean, there's very little we can do about that, unfortunately, other than curate the results at the back end. So that's my view on it, honestly.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah, no, I think it's a good answer. I'm going to move on then to dropping back into the platform, and I think an important area. Question is on the circles and the obviously communities. Question is, who can set up circles? Anyone who wants to? What's the sort of arrangement there? I'm going to push that over to Joe.
Yeah, so at current, we've created a number of circles based on trends and themes we noticed through the research and the engagement that we did. To answer the question, anyone can create them. At current, the way to do it is you can request or propose a circle. Now, the key thing to add is that these circles have a number of different ways in which they can be set up. And what I mean by that is you can have a public circle that might be around a theme or a specific challenge that you want public input onto. But if you also want to create more private spaces for yourself and a few close collaborators to discuss, and that's the mechanism you want to do, we can also create private circles, which are either public but locked, so you need to request and approve access, or even private circles that are locked and can only be viewed with a link if you really want to create that sort of private and specific space for your organizations. But realistically, it's quite simple. You sign up to the platform, log into the circles, and the specific circles part of the platform, and there's a big proposer circle, and that comes to myself and some of my colleagues. And right now, we're just doing that on a curation basis to make sure that the circles that are public more than anything else are around the theme of supply chains, and we don't begin to move forwards to perhaps heavily on commercialization and people trying to sell products. It's about collaboration more than anything else. But anyone can propose, and we'll review them all at current.
Great. Okay, thanks, Joe. I'm going to drop another question into Luke. Yeah. The question is, could the Resilience Navigator be used by government officials to track products of interest? For example, if there is a shortage of ventilators, could we use the tool to assess the resilience of a ventilator supply chain?
It's a very interesting question. I hope so. What we plan to do initially is obviously just invite people to join the platform and to contribute, you know, their own experiences and to update periodically their resilience score, so they can kind of see on an organizational level how well they're improving. But once there is almost a tipping point of data, I suppose, on the platform, it may well be possible to look at organizations of different types of manufacturing, and perhaps even delve deeper into even particular types of manufacturing subsections, that we may be able to pull that data out. Currently, it's not got that capability, but this tool is going to be something that we hope to iterate and improve upon based on industry feedback, and to also further expand its capabilities as well. So this could well definitely be something that's possible in the future.
Okay, great, thanks. So there's a question that we've got around, which I think I'll try and answer, yeah, which is from Edward Cole around privacy is not mentioned as an enabling requirement. Why is the Digital Hub ignored trustless and incentivizing methods to encourage data sharing? The approach so far appears to have ignored 6 years of decentralization, opting instead to patch Web 2 limited rather than seeking Web 3 innovation to make data sharing safer and more rewarding. Well, all I can say is we're doing a hell of a lot around this area. And if you join any of the circles that you'll see, we're doing a lot around data sharing and how do you ensure that you enable trusted environments for data sharing. We've got a number of projects and programs we're running around governance. We've got some tools we're developing around privacy preserving approaches to data sharing. So I'd encourage you to sign up to the platform, and you can read about the sorts of projects we're running in that space, and really get a better understanding of how those would support potentially some of the aspects that you're talking about. So we see it as a really important area in terms of enabling end-to-end supply chain digitization. I'm going to sort of move on now to a question around the platform. Sorry, around sort of startups, yeah? It's there's a question around, can you consider to work with a startup entity as following COVID, we're shifting to the supply chain to keep us going. Clearly, I don't know whether you want to answer that, Joe, because obviously, you know, what's the platform all about, right?
I mean, bottom line, absolutely. Startups are the core and the bread and butter of what the platform will be aiming for. Tech solution providers, innovators within technology that can help apply those solutions to the digital space. I think to be honest, the better question is not can you? It's how can we help you? And the answer is sign up to the platform, and there's content that will be specifically created for you. But the bottom line question is, do we work with startup entities? Absolutely. As both the DISH program and Digital Catapult, those organizations, startups, are our bread and butter of the people that we're trying to support, because you guys are the innovators that are driving that technology that we're trying to get people to adopt.
Great. Okay, I'm going to now throw a question over to Joe from the manufacturer. This is one that's not on the screen, but we'll go back to those in a second. One of the questions we had was thought about is what's the most important thing for a manufacturer to consider for the resilience of their supply chains? Was there anything coming out of your report that sort of said the sort of key priorities, the key important things for manufacturers to consider?
Yeah, well, I think two things that certainly comes out whenever we speak to manufacturers about whatever topic, actually, not solely linked to supply chain, but and that's the importance of people. Upskilling, reskilling, making sure the people that are coming into their organizations have the right skills, and that the organization is invested in its people. Let's say we talk to manufacturers on a daily basis about all manner of challenges, not just supply chain, but around sustainability, digital transformation. And it's amazing how often the solution and the conversation circles back around again to people. And then the second thing I would touch on that we're also seeing quite regularly when we talk to manufacturers is the element of collaboration, both up and down the supply chain, collaborating with sometimes organizations from outside the actual sector or industry that particular company is operating in, even collaboration with competitors, and even opening up collaboration within their own organization. There's particularly some of the bigger manufacturers that we speak to, they speak about their organization still being quite siloed and quite protective of the information that they have. So I think collaboration is key, is a phrase that we're seeing quite a lot when we're speaking to manufacturers in terms of getting visibility and enabling visibility and resilience within their supply chains.
Great. Yeah, no, I think that's really interesting. Yeah, to pick up on the people aspect. Yeah, because yeah, certainly it's it shouldn't be underestimated. And I suppose it links into our next question really around, I'm aware, and the question is, I'm aware you have collaborative arrangements with education companies, yeah, academics, yeah. What would you expect to be included from a technology perspective in a curriculum? Maybe Joe, just pick up on the sorts of things we are covering in our educational curriculum from a technology perspective, yeah, or in our academic modules, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the first point though is to hand that there is right now no specific caveat to say we can or can't. And the person that's asked that question, the main recommendation I'd have is reach out to us, because we are constantly trying to identify new areas in which we can offer better educational modules, as long as they are designed for helping organizations to bridge those skill gaps. So my main thing would be to ask that person to reach out to us and have a conversation with us. If you give me 2 seconds, Tim, let me pull up the exact list of educational modules that we're looking at developing, because I don't want to get that wrong. So if you don't mind jumping to someone else and then come back to me, I can answer that question in full.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So there's a question from around international road haulage, yeah, and the ability to set up a circle specifically on a particular topic. So maybe I'll pick that up while Joe's just online. So from a point of view of, as Joe mentioned, yeah, if there's enough interest around a particular topic and we want to broaden a new circle into a new area, then it's absolutely possible to do that. Yeah, that could either be a private circle, or we could build that in as a wider available circle. We just need to be clear that there was a topic that had enough interest and was one that was beneficial to a wider sort of logistics community or another related community that we're interested in building access and approach to on the platform. So I think the answer is yes, we can look to build out as many circles as we want to. Yeah, I mean, there is a sort of two-way thing around that. Obviously, the circle that's there needs to be actively used as well and developed, and the community built around it. So the answer is yes, we can, but obviously we need to make sure that it's going to be valuable to the communities as we build it. Joe, do you want to just give any further answer on that education module aspect?
Yeah. So at current on the site, what we have launched with is about educational modules about helping you to understand your digital supply chain readiness and the factors that go into that. So there is content and videos from colleagues of ours at Digital Catapult that talk to you around the power of understanding your readiness and all the specific factors that come within that. And we developed that with Edge Digital. And then the WMG or the Warwick specific bits that you're asking about, which is the HEI. So we've got mastering digital supply chain fundamentals, digital technologies and concepts transforming supply chains, building your digital supply chain roadmap, building the business case for supply chain technology implementations, successful digital transformation, and the sustainability and ethical compliance considerations. So these are all specific topics that we've identified that are going to offer real value to people. And that's what we're kind of considering our core educational modules. But again, just to sort of beat the horse one more time, if someone has educational modules or the vet or something like that they think might be valuable to a wider community, please reach out to us, because I am more than keen to talk to those kinds of organizations, whether they be other educational institutions, to have that conversation around, especially if you've got things like apprenticeship levels, because I think apprenticeships are very important for trying to bridge skill gaps at the moment. So please reach out to us, and I'd love to have a conversation with you more about the potential of creating more educational modules that can go live on the site.
Great. I've got a couple of other probably one or two last questions to cover off. There's one, as part of Made Smarter, we've done various successful supply chain projects in food, FMCG, durables, with Sainsbury's, Cranswick and others. What is the best way of using the hub to take it to market to benefit hub users? Yeah. Probably again for you, Joe, I'm afraid.
What is the best way to take? The honest one?
Best way of using the hub to take it to market. What's the best way of getting others to use it, I suppose, to grow the usage?
I mean, the almost cop-out answer, unfortunately, is if you've got those kinds of specific questions, at current, reach out to us and we can help you curate the way in which you use it, because we're the power users of it. But to use the hub to take it to market to benefit hub users. So as we mentioned, there's that specific matching capability, which at current will provide recommendations to article and content, as well as other users. So one of the next things that we're looking at focusing the development on is two things that will answer this question. One is, how can we allow other users to post their own content, because we want people to be able to share their achievements rather than having to come through us to do that. And secondly, we want to look at building that matching capability to also work with tech solutions. So not just on an organizational level, but on a solution level. If you're able to come to us, and people will come to us, and by the Q&A, we're already having people asking about specific companies that have solutions, how can we then begin to match our users with the solutions that they're looking for? So as this platform grows and as we continue development, that will become an automated thing that the matching platform that's built into the site will do. But for now, reach out again. If you're part of Made Smarter, reach out to us and we can help you be a bit more specific with how to utilize the site.
Great. Good. And we've got one last question, which I'm going to pick up, and then we'll move into close, I think. So most OEMs focus on tier 1 suppliers when they focus on supply chain management. Does this solution consider tier 2, tier 3 and beyond? And how would these suppliers connect into the higher tiers and ultimately the OEM? I suppose there's two parts to that. Maybe Luke, a little bit around the resilience tool. Is it considering sort of end-to-end supply chains? Is it just looking at immediate suppliers and tier 1s? And then maybe I'll pick up in terms of the digital supply chain hub and the platform itself.
Yeah, so in terms of the Resilience Navigator, it's OEM focused. So the questions are specifically targeted at the OEM, but the questions try to target the whole supply chain in essence, and get those filling out the survey, those organizations, those OEMs, to really think about what they are currently doing and what they within their supply chain in order to address tiers 2, 3 and beyond. There is a focus on tier 1 as well, but it is largely comprehensive of the general supply chain.
Okay, great. And from the Digital Supply Chain Hub, the platform, I mean, it's absolutely key that we have tier 2, tier 3, and right down to tier N, as we would call it, or back to the raw materials, as part of any sort of network and solution, because supply chain's only as good as the sum of its parts. And our focus is very much on, you know, connecting up, joining up, whether that be through the platform or more practically around particular supply chains. So I know that critical minerals was mentioned in one of the questions that was put on the in the chat. You know, there again, it's really important to make the linkage between, you know, the minerals coming from a particular mine right the way through to its use in its end use, whether that be in batteries or in some other product. So, you know, we believe it's really critical that the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 are part of this solution, yeah. And you know, a lot of the programs that we're running and also the supply chain test beds are deliberately looking at data from multiple tiers of the supply chain, yeah, and how that can be optimized and made to ensure that the overall supply chain runs efficiently and we get this better flow of information across end-to-end supply chains. So I think that's sort of you know, really important aspect of what we're doing. Good. I think that sort of probably reaches conclusion from a point of view of the Q&A, and I'd really like to thank our contributors and speakers today. You know, in terms of the sort of not only providing some great insights and knowledge and experience, but also, you know, the questions that we've had coming through. I'm now going to move into sort of talking about next steps and how you can get involved. Just move on to the next slide. I think in summary, you know, obviously we're launching the platform today. We are creating the UK first community of practice for digital supply chain innovation and adoption. We believe for industry, you'll be able to access the latest insights, tools, digital technologies to transform your supply chain and find and share best practices. And we'd encourage you to get involved. For tech companies, startups, larger tech companies, it's a great opportunity to understand the issues faced by industry and also the opportunity to share your solutions and potentially how you're addressing those problems. For academia, sharing your insights, knowledge and research to a wider audience, also finding collaboration partners and getting involved. And not to mention other stakeholders like government, you know, seeing how you can get involved from a public sector perspective. We're all about accelerating the collaboration needed to bring digital supply chains into reality. As we move forward, there will be further educational modules launched. New digital supply chain survey industry findings will come out in the next month or so, and new solutions showcases as we add solutions to the platform and showcase those examples. So this is a rich, evolving and developing platform. This is only the start of the journey for us all. We'd really encourage you to join that journey with us to make UK supply chains more resilient, efficient and sustainable. So all I'd say to conclude is please sign up today. You'll have seen all the way through was a range of QR codes that you could click on as we went through the presentation, and you can see one on the final screen here. So I'd encourage everybody to at least look at what you're doing and get involved with the platform. As I say, it really is all about the community that we're building here. It's not about us as a digital catapult. It's about this as a mechanism for helping everyone and helping each other move things forward. So thanks very much for listening. Thanks very much for getting involved in terms of your questions and answers and the input. Thanks again to all the panelists, and we're excited about taking this forward as a great asset for the UK and for manufacturers within the UK and the ecosystem around them. So thanks very much.